Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue back with Nancy Drew, The Haunted Carousel. Chapter 7, A Red-Headed Visitor. No, we haven't arrested Malone, Officer Doyle told Bess. We can't find him. He's not in the house, and you say he never came out. No, I'm sure he didn't, Bess declared. I've been keeping a watch on the exit ever since we got here. Her voice trailed off into the silence, and she stared into bewilderment, first at the two policemen and then at Nancy. The latter were both puzzled and embarrassed. She was sure the man she had chased was Fingers Malone. Bess had seen him too. The way he had fled more or less proved they had made no mistake in recognizing the pickpocket. Yet now he seems to have vanished into thin air. What made it more frustrating and annoying was the way Officer Doyle and Detective Morse were looking at her. Obviously, they put her story down to an overactive imagination. If I didn't see Fingers Malone, then who hit me on the head? She demanded. An uncomfortable expression came over Norris's face and cleared his throat before replying. Well, Miss Drew, in your excitement, you probably ran into something. Then I must have been running backward to get hit on the back of my head. Is that what you're saying? The detective shrugged sheepishly. Well, maybe you turned to glance over his shoulder and bumped into the doorframe. Who knows? Don't worry about it, girls, Officer Doyle spoke up. We'll nab Malone sooner or later if he's anywhere in the park. And with that, the two policemen walked off. Nancy and Bess exchanged rueful looks and stared back into the marina parking lot where the teenage sleuth had left the car. Gee, I don't understand where that crook went. Do you, Nancy? Bess said. No, but I intend to find out before this case is over. We can discuss that later, though. Right now I'm too hungry. Bess giggled. Stop stealing my lines. Laughing and chatting, the two girls drove back into the Drews' house and found George Fane waiting there for them. Oh, great, Nancy exclaimed happily. Let's get some lunch. There's a big bowl of salad in the refrigerator and some sliced chicken, Hannah Gruen told her after greeting the two. Would you like to make some sandwiches? We'll do it, Hannah, Nancy smiled. By the way, you've had more phone calls about the carousel mystery, the housekeeper reported and added with a wry chuckle. My, oh my, you wouldn't believe what crazy ideas people have. One man asked me to tell you that a dray horse died from heat stroke years ago in the street outside the park. He thinks the ghost may be turning the merry-go-round at night. In response to the girls' queries, Hannah Gruen described several other far-out theories suggested by Nancy's phone callers. The three friends discussed them as they nibbled their sandwiches and salad on the big, cheerful sun porch. Maybe there's a park poltergeist, said George only half seriously. Isn't that the kind of ghost that throws things around in the haunted houses? Bess asked her cousin. Right, usually when there's a scatterbrained teenager somewhere on the premises. And remember, George teased, you often go to Riverside Park. George responded by playfully throwing a piece of carrot at her. When the laughter subsided, Nancy said, Anyhow, I'm not ready to accept any ghost theories. Yet. At least not until I've checked out all possible natural causes. That's why I intend to have an engineer examine the carousel to see if anything's been tampered with. Any particular engineer come to mind? George asked. Nancy shook her head. No, can you suggest someone? Oh, I know, Bess exclaimed, smiling. George frowned at her cousin. Bess, don't be childish. Turning to Nancy, she said, As a matter of fact, I have a friend who's studying electrical and engineering in college. You haven't met him yet, but his name is Neil Sawyer. Is he in River Heights? Yes, he has a summer job at a recording studio on Maple Street. Sounds just right for the job, Nancy smiled happily. Do you think he'd do it? Oh, he'd be delighted to if George asked him. It was Bess' turn to tease, and she was rewarded by seeing her cousin blush. As Nancy got up to serve the lemon chiffon pie, she mused aloud. Just for the sake of argument, let's say some human joker is making the carousel act up at night. What possible reason could anyone have for playing such a trick? Maybe someone doesn't like the owners or he's trying to scare away the customers, put in George. Nancy nodded thoughtfully. Clever idea, only if that's his game, it doesn't seem to be working very well. It would make a better publicity gimmick, wouldn't it, to attract business? Guess you're right, George agreed. There were certainly a lot of riders when we were at the park with the Custer kids. This is delicious, Beth said, taking a forkful of pie. You know, I saw a movie about a bank robbery on TV the other night. In the film, the thieves purposely started a fire in another building to distract the cops' attention while they were looting the bank vault. Nancy flashed a startled glance at her friend. You mean someone might be using the carousel the same way to draw the attention of any policeman in the park area while a crime's being committed somewhere nearby? Something like that, Beth said timidly. I guess it's a pretty wild idea. Huh? Maybe, maybe not, returned Nancy. I guess it's worth following up. When they had finished eating, the girls carried their lunch things into the kitchen and washed the dishes. In 10 minutes, all was neat again. Nancy, don't forget about her cookout tonight, Bess said as the two cousins prepared to leave. No danger, Nancy said with a smile. Let me just run upstairs and tell Hannah, and then I'll drive you two home. Mind if I use your phone? Asked George. Help yourself. By the time Nancy came downstairs again, George was just hanging up. I just called Neil Sawyer. He said he'll check the carousel for you this afternoon. Oh, marvelous. After dropping Bess and George at the Fanes' house, Nancy drove on to the police headquarters where she could see her friend, Police Chief McGinnis. How does the carousel, Mystery Nancy? The stocky gray-haired officer inquired after offering her a face checking at his desk. At this moment, I'm still baffled, Chief, the young detective confessed. Any way I can help? Actually, I was wondering if the police might have a record of dates and times the carousel started playing by itself at night. McGinnis nodded. Yes, we've had calls from the public every time, so there should be a complete record in the precinct log. Like me to find out? If you would, I certainly would appreciate it, Nancy replied. Also, I'd like to know whether any crimes were committed in the area around the park at those times. Sure, no problem. I'll check it out and get back to you, the police chief promised. After thanking him and chatting a while longer, Nancy left headquarters and drove home. As she walked into the house, Hannah stuck her head around the kitchen door. Nancy, you just missed a visitor. Oh, who? A red-haired girl named Joy Trent. She phoned this morning. Remember telling me about a girl who wanted you to solve a mystery for her? Oh, yes, I do remember, Hannah. What did you tell her? I said you've been so busy you hadn't time to return all your calls yet, but you'd be in touch with her as soon as possible. She seemed like a very nice girl, very polite. The housekeeper added approvingly. She even apologized for bothering me. She hoped she wasn't making a nuisance of herself. I'll call her right now, Nancy decided. Oh, you won't be able to reach her, I'm afraid. She said she'll be out of most of the afternoon and evening, Hannah explained. But if you would call her sometime tomorrow, she'd appreciate it. Fleetingly, Nancy was reminded of something, but she couldn't quite call it to mind. What did this Joy Trent look like, Hannah? Oh, I'd say she was a bit younger than you, Nancy, and she had a very coppery red hair and freckles. Also, I imagine her parents must be very well-to-do because her clothes were lovely and she was driving a very expensive-looking foreign sports car. Nancy knit to her brow thoughtfully, but finally shook her head. I feel like I should know her from somewhere, Hannah, but I can't quite place her. I think you have a hard time forgetting this girl, my dear, said the housekeeper. Not only does she have red hair and freckles, when I was talking to her, I noticed her eyes were two different colors. One was green and one was brown. Nancy gave up, despite a recollection that was flickering on the edge of her memory. Guess I'll have to wait till I see her. She spent the rest of the afternoon returning phone calls that Hannah noted down or had been recorded on the answering machine. Later that day, Nancy showered and changed into blue jeans and a pale blue knit pullover top since George said not to dress up. Calling out to Hannah, she said, I'm leaving for George and Bess's cookout now. Nancy went out to her blue sports car and drove to the Fanes' house. A number of cars were parked in front. Nancy recognized several as belonging to friends of the two cousins. As she walked around the house of the pleasant old colonial house, the sound of laughter and chatter reached her ears. A number of people, young and old, were sitting around. The barbecue fires had been lit and buffet tables of food set out. With whoops of delight, the three Custer girl children cornered Nancy. I've told my mom about you, said Janet, and I want you to come meet her. Nancy was propelled by the youngers toward a pleasant-faced, curly-haired woman who was chatting with Mrs. Marvin and Mrs. Fain. But she only had a few minutes to get acquainted with Mrs. Custer before George and a blond young man in horned rimmed glasses came over to join them. Nancy, I want you to meet Neil Sawyer, said George. He's already checked out the carousel. Isn't that great? Wonderful, Nancy smiled at George's new friend. I'm happy to meet you, Neil. And I really really appreciate your taking the trouble to inspect the carousel so promptly. Did you find anything of interest? I sure did, Neil grinned back. In fact, I can tell you how the trick is done. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.